P is one of the classic emoticons. It conveys silliness as the colon resembles two eyes and the P a mouth with the tongue sticking out to the side. We use these symbols to represent this emotion because they are the ones available to us on our keyboard, whose layout is carried on from the earliest typewriters. So, why do we have these symbols anyways? P is just a letter with its symbol used to represent the sound P in our Latin alphabet. Our Latin alphabet comes from the Greeks, with some of their letters being seen on this prize vase from the Athenian Games, which is inscribed Nicodemus epoieson, meaning Nicodemus made this. Fun fact, the root word of epoieson is poieo, where we get our word for poetry. We can see the P sound being represented by the Greek letter pi, and the resemblance is clear, as this is directly where we get the symbol for the Latin letter P. The Greeks got their symbols for their letters from the Phoenicians, whose letters can be seen on this statue of Harpocrates. As it is inscribed right to left, we can see the P sound coming from this symbol, for the Phoenician letter P. If we replace our Latin P with its ancestral symbol, the Phoenician P, it makes a new emoticon of a sly, smirking face. This is slightly amusing, but it goes much deeper. The Phoenicians got their letter symbols from the Proto-Semitic scripts, with the Phoenician P coming from this symbol. And the Proto-Semitic scripts come directly from the Egyptian hieroglyphs, a sample of which can be seen on the mummy coffin of Pedusiri. The hieroglyphs started as drawings, each representing a thing, and the Proto-Semitic symbol for P came from this hieroglyph, which just so happens to be the hieroglyph for mouth. Remarkably, a symbol that started thousands of years ago as a drawing of a mouth that has since been abstracted and stripped away of any semantic meaning has been reincarnated back to its hieroglyphic roots through our P emoticon, though this rebirth has come about under very different circumstances, as the early internet concealed our faces behind screens and confined us to a discrete set of only 128 symbols. Our human necessity to express our emotions was able to overcome these restraints, reinvigorating our modern semantically dead symbols with new life, whereas the Egyptian scribes were truly free, simply being able to draw whatever was important to them, intrinsically giving each symbol life. Our human brain has been able to bridge across this multi-millennia gap in our joining through the shrouded hood of our computer screens, as faces are the anchors of our psyche to the physical plane. A twist of fate of our symbols like this was bound to happen. Now, what about the colon half of the P? The colon goes back to the Carolingian period writings and exists as one of four key punctuations, originally indicating different lengths of pauses to take between sentences, as described in the art of English poesy. Hey, there's that Greek word again, poesy. Seamless segue to Greek scholar Aristophanes, who started the use of dots as punctuation with the use of 3 different height dots to indicate different lengths of breath to take when speaking, giving P a historical meaning of mouth and breath. I'll admit that one's a bit of a stretch, but are there any other anatomically accurate emoticons? Well, I can find any more for the Western-style reclining emoticons, but the upright Eastern Calmojis allow for different ways characters can be used. As an aside, you might think that from a combination of these names is where we get the word for our modern-day emoji, but this similarity is just a happy coincidence, as emoji actually comes from the Japanese, with E meaning picture and moji meaning character, as in Calmoji with the cow meaning face. We can truly find faces in anything. Back to the topic at hand though, the oh whoa Calmoji, expressing a surprised face with wide open eyes, also has an interesting history. We can use the same chain of evolution as for the letter P, with the Latin letter O coming from the Greek letter omicron, and on the bust of Pharaoh Osorkon I, we can see the very familiar Phoenician letter ion, coming from this Proto-Semitic symbol, which stems from this hieroglyph. As you can probably tell, this is the hieroglyph for I. So, just like for the letter P, the letter O has been reunited with its original meaning of I after thousands of years, coming full circle. Get it? like the letter O. Now what about the W? As you can tell from its name, double U comes from two U's. But then why do they look like V's in the W? Well, the U sound was originally just represented by the letter V, as seen in this Roman inscription of the goddess Virtus, where the letter V is used for both the V and sounds in Virtus. And the Latin letter V comes from the Greek letter upsilon, as seen in this vase of Odysseus slitting the throat of a Thracian warrior, with the Greek letter upsilon coming from the Phoenician letter wa, which comes from this proto-Semitic symbol. And we can see in the coffin of Sesek Nofru the hieroglyph where the Phoenician letter wa comes from. It's hard to tell what this hieroglyph was supposed to represent, but Egyptologists can tell us it was supposed to depict a hook, giving owo the historical meaning of I, hook, I, which doesn't suggest much, besides maybe the removal of ultraviolence. With owo meaning I, hook, I, we can also see the more popular variant of uwu being U, then double U, then U, meaning hook. However, this hook talk doesn't really hook me. We can do better if we realize our letter W, although unrelated, bears a striking resemblance to the Phoenician letter shin. This is just a coincidence, but we can reinterpret owo as being O shin O instead of O W O to give it meaning, with the Phoenician letter shin coming from this proto-Semitic symbol. Now the hieroglyph this comes from is kind of murky, but linguists were still able to determine its original meaning by looking at the descendants of the Phoenician language, where the letter has carried on and is still called shin, being used to represent the sh sound. And these languages all have words for tooth sounding like shin and starting with the letter shin. From this, linguists were able to determine the original meaning of the Phoenician letter shin to be tooth. We can kind of see this in the proto-Semitic symbol loosely resembling a tooth, and this meaning better fits with the W and OO being the mouth, especially with the curves, since the W and OO was supposed to be like a cat's mouth, and this coming from the cat-loving Egyptians. The Phoenician letter shin is where the Greeks got the letter sigma, so if we keep it in the Latin alphabet, we can do OSO, where the S can be a kind of kissy face. The only other one I could find is the table flipping emoticon with a slight adjustment, replacing those curves with the letter J, coming from the Greek letter iota, and back to our old friend Pharaoh Sorkin I, iota comes from the Phoenician letter yod, which comes from this proto-Semitic symbol. And on the sarcophagus of Harkbit, we can see the hieroglyph yod comes from, which becomes more clear if we mirror it. And just like the O and P, the J2 has rekindled its marriage with the original semantic meaning. Amazingly, these hieroglyphs fit perfectly back into the table flipping emoticon, like it was destined to happen. So, these are the examples of this incredible phenomenon I was able to find. But I'm curious what historically or anatomically accurate emoticons you can find or even create. So here's a list of the Latin alphabet and the hieroglyphs the letters come from. Some lend themselves to being used in emoticons more so than others. Please leave your creations or discoveries in the comments. I'd be really interested in seeing some alphabets other than the Latin alphabet mixing into it.